The start of the season always brings a lot of expectations, but what the New York Yankees showed in this opening series was something that really caught everyone's attention, not just because they won the games, but because of how they won them. This team didn't rely on just one star, one big swing, or one lucky moment. What we saw was a roster working together, finding different ways to win baseball games, and that is something that Yankees fans have been waiting to see for a long time. When a team can win in multiple ways, that is when you start to believe that something special might be happening. In the first game of the series, the Yankees showed that they don't need to depend on just one player to produce offense. Even without a big performance from their biggest star, the lineup managed to score multiple runs, and what was even more impressive was the contribution from the bottom of the lineup. That is something that often separates good teams from great teams. When the lower part of the batting order is producing, getting on base, and driving in runs, it makes the entire lineup more dangerous because there are no easy outs for the opposing pitchers. Then in another game of the series, the offense looked completely different. Instead of a lot of runs and big innings, the Yankees relied on timely hits and just enough power to build a lead and protect it. It wasn't a game where they were hitting home run after home run, but they didn't need to. They found the right moments, got runners in scoring position, and delivered when it mattered the most. That kind of situational hitting is something that the team has struggled with in past seasons. So seeing it early in the season is definitely a very positive sign. What also stood out in this series was the pitching, and not just the starting rotation, but the bullpen as well. The relievers came into difficult situations and handled them with confidence, throwing strikes, avoiding walks, and forcing weak contact. When your bullpen is able to protect leads and keep games under control late in the game, it changes the entire dynamic of the team. The starters can focus on going deep into games, and the offense knows that if they get a lead, there's a very good chance the bullpen will hold it. There were also a few individual performances that really helped the team, especially from players who are not always in the spotlight. Those are the performances that often define a long season. It is easy to expect the big stars to perform, but when role players step up, drive in runs, make defensive plays, and contribute in small but important ways, that is when a team starts to look complete. Baseball is a long season, and you cannot rely on just 2 or 3 players. You need the entire roster, and so far, the Yankees are showing that they understand that. Another important detail from this series was the way the team approached their at-bats. They looked more patient, more disciplined, and more focused on making contact when necessary instead of always swinging for power. There were moments where they moved runners over, hit sacrifice flies, stole bases, and took advantage of defensive mistakes. These are small details during a game, but over the course of a season, these small plays win a lot of games. Teams that can do the little things right are usually the teams that are still playing when the season gets close to the end. Defensively, the team also looked very solid, making routine plays and avoiding costly errors. Good defense often goes unnoticed when everything is working well, but it is one of the most important parts of winning baseball games. A single error can change an entire game, extend an inning, and give the other team momentum. The Yankees looked focused in the field, and that helped the pitchers a lot because they could trust that the defense behind them would make the plays. One of the most interesting things about this series was that every game felt different. One game was more offensive, another was more about pitching, and another was a close game where every run mattered. And in all those situations, the Yankees found a way to win. That is probably the most important takeaway from this opening series. It was not just about winning games, it was about showing that the team can adapt to different situations and still come out on top. If this is how they're going to play throughout the season, then this team is going to be very difficult to beat. They're not depending on just home runs, they're not depending on just one pitcher, and they're not depending on just one star player. They're playing as a complete team. And when a team starts the season playing complete baseball like this, it usually means that they're well prepared, well managed, and focused on the bigger goal for the season. Another thing that really stood out during this series was how confident the pitching staff looked from the very beginning. Starting pitching sets the tone for everything. And when your starters are attacking the strike zone, working quickly, and keeping hitters off balance, it gives the entire team a sense of control over the game. The Yankee starters were not just trying to survive innings, they were dominating stretches of the games. And that makes a huge difference over the course of a series because it saves the bullpen and keeps everyone fresh. One of the biggest questions coming into the season was how the rotation would perform early on, especially with some key pitchers still working their way back and building up their pitch counts. But what we saw in this series was very encouraging. The starters were efficient, they were not throwing too many pitches per inning, and they were able to go deep enough into games to hand the ball to the bullpen with a lead. That is exactly what a team wants from its rotation, especially early in the season when everyone is still finding their rhythm. The bullpen, on the other hand, looked like a real strength of this team. Relievers came into games in high-pressure situations and pitched with confidence. They were throwing strikes, getting ahead in the count, and forcing hitters to swing at pitches they did not want to swing at. When a bullpen is working like that, games start to feel shorter for the opposing team because once the starter leaves with a lead, it becomes very difficult to mount a comeback. Offensively, what made this series even more impressive was the fact that the Yankees were not relying only on the long ball. Of course, home runs are always going to be part of this team's identity, but in this series we saw a more balanced defensive approach. There were base hits with runners in scoring position, there were doubles that drove in runs, there were stolen bases that put pressure on the defense, and there were productive outs that helped move runners into scoring position. This is the kind of offense that is much more consistent over a long season because it does not depend on just one swing. And maybe the most important thing from this entire series is the way the team looked mentally. They looked focused, prepared, and confident. They did not panic in close situations. They did not look frustrated when things did not go their way in certain innings, and they kept playing the game the right way from the first inning to the last inning. That kind of mentality is something that usually comes from a team that believes in itself and believes that it can win every game it plays. What also deserves attention is how certain players are stepping into their roles with clarity without trying to do too much. You can see that everyone understands what is expected of them, and that creates a much more stable environment on the field. When players are not forcing plays or chasing moments, the game starts to slow down for them, and that is exactly what it looked like during the series. Each at-bat had a purpose, each defensive play was handled with focus, and that level of composure is not always easy to maintain, especially this early in the season. There's also a growing sense that this team is learning how to control the tempo of the game. In past seasons, there were moments where things would speed up, especially in tight situations, and mistakes would follow. But in this series, the Yankees looked comfortable even when the game was close. They were not rushing, they were not making careless decisions, and they were trusting their preparation. That kind of control can be the difference between winning and losing when the margins are small. Another interesting aspect is how adaptable the lineup has become. Different players are contributing in different games, and that makes it much harder for opposing teams to find a clear strategy. If one player has a quiet night, someone else steps up. If the power is not there, they find other ways to produce runs. This kind of adaptability is something that usually develops over time, but seeing it already take shape is a very strong indicator that this team could be ahead of schedule in terms of chemistry. The communication on the field also seemed much sharper. Whether it was in the infield, the outfield, or even between pitchers and catchers, there was a clear sense of coordination. These are details that might not always stand out immediately, but they prevent mistakes and create smoother transitions during plays. Good communication often leads to better execution, and that was evident throughout the entire series. From a strategic point of view, the decision-making during the games was also very effective. The timing of pitching changes, the use of the bullpen, and even the offensive adjustments all seemed well thought out. Nothing felt random or reactive. Instead, it looked like a team that had a clear plan and was executing it step by step. When strategy and execution come together like that, it becomes very difficult for opponents to find weaknesses. There's also a noticeable energy coming from the dugout that carries onto the field. Players are engaged, supporting each other, and reacting to key moments in the game. That kind of energy can be contagious, and it often plays a role in close games where momentum shifts quickly. When a team is connected like that, it can create an extra edge that does not show up in statistics, but makes a real difference during games. And as the season begins to unfold, performances like these start to build something even more important than just wins. They build confidence, rhythm, and identity. Right now, the Yankees are not just collecting victories, they're shaping the way they want to play, establishing habits, and proving that they can handle different types of challenges. There's also a noticeable level of confidence when they play with a lead. Some teams get nervous late in games and start making mistakes, but the Yankees look calm and controlled in those situations. Pitchers continue to attack hitters, fielders stay focused, and the offense still looks for insurance runs instead of becoming passive. That mentality is important because many games are decided in the final innings. What really makes everything come together is the balance between aggression and discipline. They are aggressive on the bases, aggressive when they see a pitch they like, and aggressive on the mound attacking hitters. But at the same time, they're disciplined enough to avoid unnecessary mistakes. That balance is very difficult to achieve, but when a team finds it, they become very dangerous to play against. And right now, the Yankees are starting to look like a team that is finding that balance at the perfect time early in the season. But before we continue, please remember to join our channel and give this video a like. Your support allows us to keep bringing you the latest news about the New York Yankees. Feel free to share your thoughts on the news in the comments. The buzz around the Bronx has taken a dramatic turn as whispers grow louder that KETEL MARTE has accepted an offer to join the Yankees. While no official confirmation has been issued, sources close to the situation suggest that the versatile star is ready to bring his dynamic presence to one of baseball's most scrutinized lineups. The potential move is already sending ripples across the league, with insiders hinting that negotiations progressed quickly behind closed doors. MARTE, known for his consistency at the plate and defensive flexibility, would represent a significant addition to a Yankees roster eager to reassert itself among the elite. The speculation suggests that both sides found common ground swiftly, driven by mutual interest and a shared ambition for immediate impact. Those familiar with the discussions describe the agreement as done in principle, though formalities are still believed to be pending. Inside the clubhouse, the mere possibility of MARTE's arrival is said to have sparked excitement. His reputation as a reliable hitter with postseason composure makes him an attractive piece for a team built around star power, but seeking balance. Analysts believe his ability to adapt across multiple positions could give the Yankees a strategic edge, particularly in high-pressure stretches. Still, questions remain. How MARTE would fit into the existing lineup, and what adjustments might follow, are topics fueling debate among fans and pundits alike. Some view the move as a bold step toward reinforcing depth, while others wonder if it signals further changes on the horizon. For now, it remains a developing story, one that continues to gain momentum with each passing hour. If the rumors prove true, the Yankees may be on the verge of securing one of the most intriguing additions of the season, one that could reshape expectations and redefine their path forward. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the New York Yankees, please subscribe to our channel and give us a like. We always appreciate your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.